the Holy Spirit, one God, now and forever. Amen. Let them give glory to the Lord and declare his praises in the islands. Those are the words of Isaiah the prophet about 700 years before Christ. I don't think Isaiah knew about the Cayman Islands, but God did, and he has established his church there in the Cayman Islands. And our guests today will tell us more about that. Heidi Paul is here. Where is Heidi? There she is. Heidi is a teacher and has taught in South Africa and the United States and now in the Cayman Islands. And we enjoyed talking with her a lot last night. And Dr. Paul graduated from our Fort Wayne Seminary and then also earned his doctorate from our Fort Wayne Seminary. He has served parishes in South Africa where he grew up and also in the United States, and then received a call to go to the beach, which many Missouri Synod pastors have coveted but have not received. And so he will tell us a lot more about that today. And I would like to go ahead and turn it over to Dr. Gerald Paul.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So good to be here. Well, if you come to us on Christmas Eve, you will be literally on the beach. Our Christmas Eve service is on the beach. So, and it's well attended. We have lessons and carols on Christmas Eve. And you can wear shorts and your, swimsuit too. Thank you for the introduction. Thank you for the welcome. And as is the policy of the Office of International Mission, of the LCMS, missionaries return home every 2 years to say thank you for your support, your prayers, your encouragement. We've been traveling for 2 months now, Heidi and I, and this is our last stop. And it's great to be with you. I was here just under 3 years ago, and we thank you for your support and your encouragement all this time. So this is a little bit of a kind of summary of our work that's being done the last 2 years. But for more context as such, you might know, you've had a few missionaries visit here. We have missionaries across the world, and to administer that, the world is divided into 4 regions: the Asia region, the Eurasia region, the Africa region, and our region where we live and work in the Latin America and Caribbean region, which is mostly Central and South America and the Caribbean islands. And we have LCMS has missionaries there in Belize, Cayman Islands, Heidi and I, and a lot of chickens out there. Dominican Republic, who have quite a few missionaries there, in Panama, in Peru, in Puerto Rico, and also in Uruguay. That's where LCMS currently has missionaries serving in our region. At the end of the 1800s, beginning of 1900s, the LCMS had sent missionaries out to Brazil to do mission work, but also to gather a lot of Europeans that have immigrated to Brazil. And that Lutheran Church has grown exponentially, and they approached the LCMS to help them, organize and train missionaries and send them out too. So they signed an agreement as alliance missionaries to work together alongside the LCMS missionaries in our region for a couple of years, and then they will be able to send them out as a church body themselves. And we have Brazilian alliance missionaries in Belize, in the Dominican Republic, in Guatemala, Jamaica. We have one from Nigeria, Panama, Peru, in Puerto Rico, and also Uruguay. We have Brazilian alliance missionaries working together with our missionaries at the moment. All these countries in our region have larger or smaller Lutheran church bodies, or beginning with church bodies. Brazil and Argentina are pretty large. They have their own seminaries. And Paraguay sends their students to Argentina or Brazil. However, the other countries have tried training their own pastors and deaconesses, but they've struggled quite a bit, and they approached the LCMS if we could help them with that. So we set up a seminary in the Dominican Republic, and these church bodies then from these countries send their students to the Dominican Republic to be trained as pastors and deaconesses, and then with the agreement that they would return to their home countries and home churches to be pastors there. And this is working pretty well at the moment, and I'm privileged to teach there too, as we'll discuss a little later. So that's our region. Have you seen the Cayman Islands on the map yet? It's kind of far away. You know, maybe if we zoom in a little bit. Nobody yet? Three little islands in the central Caribbean, about 200 odd miles south of Cuba. Yeah, small islands, about 78,000 people living on all three islands. Most people we live and work on Grand Cayman. Most people live and work there. Little Cayman and Cayman Brac are the other two islands. That's mostly for vacation, weekends away, etc. So now we know where we are. Now we know where to come visit. Our regional office is in the Dominican Republic in the city of Santiago, and that's where our seminary is also. So, when you first think of the Cayman Islands, what comes to mind? In our travels, sorry? Oh yeah, beautiful beaches, etc. But many people have other memories. Maybe money laundering, offshore banking, lots of money, wealth. Well, it's true. Half the economy is financial services. There are 183 banks registered on the island. It's a tax haven for corporations. So, yeah. And, of course, wealth is there, beautiful resorts, partying, beautiful beaches, cruise tourism, and people think it's just a playground of the rich and famous. So why send a missionary there? Oh, to go on vacation, of course. No. Well, for once, there's not only that side of the population, there's the whole economic spectrum, of course, is on the island too. And what did the angel say when Jesus was born? I bring you good tidings of great joy to all people. Jesus came for all people. Jesus died on the cross for all people. And on the end of Matthew, Jesus said, "Go therefore make disciples of all nations, including island nations." So, and that's why we're there, and that's why we are here today to thank you for your love and your care and your support. And some of you have received a prayer card, so in your devotional life, pray for us and our mission work there. And we especially thank you for your support through Mission Advancement in St. Louis, and also through Mission Central in Mapleton, Iowa. They do a lot of work to support missionaries across the world that frees us missionaries to do our work, where God has called us to be. So we thank you for that, very much from the bottom of our heart. And we've met so many people like you across the LCMS, and we really appreciate that. So now a little bit more about the people we get to love and to serve at Safe Harbor Lutheran Church. That's the only Lutheran church in the Cayman Islands. We're it, Safe Harbor Lutheran Church. And so we're easy to find. You just Google us and you'll find us out there, and find us where we get together. So a few people that are members there and attend our church. This is Maribel. When she was a teenager, she and her family had to flee Cuba. That's when Castro took over in the early 60s, and she's a member of our church and a wonderful lady, dependent on public transport, but she makes it on Sunday mornings. Georgette is a native Kamanian, a member of our church, and Well, I guess, yeah, she's native, but just for clarification, when it became a British colony, together with Jamaica in the late 1600s, there was no human habitation on the island, so it was empty. So the Brits were the Brits and who brought slaves with them were the first inhabitants, except for lots of mosquitoes. But yeah, so she can trace her family line back to the 1700s in the Cayman Islands. So yeah, it's lovely to have her there. And of course, Rita is our oldest member. She's 82, I think, 83. I guess you've heard of Island Time, huh? Our church starts at 10-ish, kind of. People start arriving at 10, and we start when most people are there. And Rita is dependent on others for a ride, and she comes even later than that. So I'm already busy in the divine service after the confession, absolution, the introit, and then she sneaks in. She loves to bring flowers for the altar, and she sneaks in with a little vase and puts it on the altar for us. And Ziva Ndlovu, she's from Zimbabwe, lives with her daughter and family on the island, and it's wonderful to have her. We get to visit with her in Zulu. You know, growing up in South Africa, we played as little children with Zulu kids, and that's how we learned the language. And we get to visit with Z in Zulu on Sunday mornings. Yoli and Alicia, they are related to Maribel. Her family did not flee Cuba because they were convinced, by the communists that, everything will be free. Free education, free healthcare, free everything, paradise. And they lived through the deterioration of the economy and Cuba just falling apart. So they were able to leave Cuba and because of their relationship with Cayman Islands, were able to settle on the Cayman Islands, a part of our church now, and we get to visit with them in Spanish. And this is our newest member, Whitney from Nicaragua. I was privileged to catechize her. And Shirley, she was, I have a picture here because she was catechized by Pastor Feeney, who served there the short time that he helped out there. So Shirley is also from Nicaragua, and their friend, hopefully they'll join us. And we see wonderful God's work through, as he promised, through Word and Sacrament there. This is our core group. Our members, just a picture of them there. And also Leslie, he is Georgette's brother, native Kamanian, and his wife from Minnesota, Michelle. Lynette is from Indian descent, but she grew up in Guyana, in South America, and in a Hindu family, but she's now Lutheran, thanks be to God. Kathy and her daughter, they are from Chicagoland area, long-term members there too. Beth is from North Dakota with her Kamanian husband, Joel, who is our elder. It's a recent picture of a service. That's our porch. That's where we have service. In the back is a children's area with a blue plastic table, and to the left there is our living room. So that's where we gather on Sunday mornings. This picture just for, we have an interesting family visiting us, attending our church. This is Sandra. She's from Germany. We get to visit with her in German on Sunday mornings, but she's Roman Catholic. And her Jamaican husband, Andrew, he's Pentecostal. And Liam, their son, is becoming a Lutheran. He's in Sunday school with us, and they attend too when Heidi teaches Sunday school and have a lot of questions, so I hope to catechize the whole family pretty soon. You can keep those in your prayers too. And of course, in the living room is our South African family. We get to visit in Afrikaans with them on Sunday mornings. They have two rambunctious boys. When the boys are a little bit too lively, they kind of flee to the living room to not be too much of a distraction. So that's kind of our group. Everybody needs Jesus. We have people from 8 countries in our little church, speaking 5 languages. And incidentally, that's the languages Heidi and I speak. So I guess God knows what he's doing, kind of setting us there. So first, our story, first 2 years, what were our goals and how these goals were met in God's work at Safe Harbor Lutheran Church. Of course, our goal was to bring back Word and Sacrament ministry to the flock at Safe Harbor. That was important to us because the islands were locked down during COVID. We came during COVID. When COVID hit, there was a retired pastor helping out, but he had to be evacuated because they asked most of the expats to leave. And the commercial flights were stopped, and he had to be evacuated off the island. And for more than a year, there was no divine service, no pastor present, a Lutheran pastor present on the island. So they survived by logging into live stream services elsewhere. So that was our goal, to arrive there and also create a sense of stability and permanence. As you might know, through Pastor Feeney, they were very thankful that pastors like him came out to help, retired pastors. But they came a month at a time, or 2 months, maybe the longest stayed 3 months, for several years. So that doesn't, build stability and permanence in the congregation if you have a high turnover of pastors, although they were very thankful to have them. And also that's in a sense why we were called there too. Heidi's a preschool teacher to try and establish an early childhood learning center there if possible. So first of all, thanks be to God and your support, we were able to arrive, not without incident, but we made it finally on the island after a few weeks or 6 more weeks in the Dominican Republic for orientation and learning Spanish. The congregation had rented a house for 9 years for all these pastors that came and went, and we were able to quarantine in a house, and thankfully not a hotel room. We had to quarantine for 14 days. When we landed, we were met by people in hazmat suits, white hazmat suits, screens, masks and everything. They put these tracking wristbands on our arms and cell phones and said, "Do not leave your house for 14 days." It's possible. The congregation had prepared the house for us with groceries, etc. So, and they said, "Do not let that cell phone go below 30% battery life." Okay, we managed, but one day we forgot, and one of the cell phones went below 30%. They called us and said, "Plug your phone in; it's below 30%." Oh, Big Brother is watching. So yeah, and there were some young people that came similar time to us. They thought, they're not serious about this. They just scare you. So they left the quarantine and went to the beach and enjoyed a day on the beach. Not having contact with other people. They thought they were safe. Well, they were arrested and jailed for 2 months. So I was installed via Zoom. Pastor Cray was in Dominican Republic, Pastor St. Ange he was our area facilitator then in Montreal, in Canada, and I was in the Cayman Islands. And during Lent was our first divine service together again on our porch at the parsonage, and then we celebrated Easter. That was fantastic. Everybody was together again. What a joy to have God's gifts, Word and Sacrament again on Easter. So thanks be to God, we were able to accomplish our first goal there. Now for more stability and permanence, which was not that easy because the culture is very fluid. Small island, a lot of visitors come and go, especially now that the islands are open. Cruise tourism, a lot of other visitors stay for a short term. Half the population are expats that are there for 2 years, maybe up to 9 years. So there's a lot of change happening. And of course, maybe if you know island fever, you know what cabin fever, you know what island fever is. It's a small island, you see the same things, same people always. People want to leave. So any holiday weekend or school break, they're off. They take off to somewhere else, maybe another island or visit family, or just to go shopping in Miami for a weekend. So you have the terms on and off island there. For example, when expect somebody to be in church on Sunday, and you ask, where is so-and-so? Oh, he's off island. So just gone. They left for a short time. Of course, there's a great need for housing on the islands, the shortage of especially affordable housing. And properties are very expensive, so most people rent, businesses or private properties. And the government or the law protects the property owner. So any lease agreement that you sign always has a 60-day agreement in it. A 60-day, the homeowner or the property owner can give you a 60-day notice for whatever reason. Say, you need to vacate my property within 60 days. So, boom. You have no recourse in the law. So, as you see, it kind of happened to us too. But so we wanted to establish a fixed place of worship. It's always good, if you want to invite people to church, to know where church is on Sunday, where you invite them to. So it changed so often. Before the pandemic, they worshipped in the South Sound Community Center, which is a beautiful place that they rented. Large space to grow. It was central. People knew that we were gathering there because they regularly met there. The thing is, even though we were scheduled to meet there every Sunday, some Sundays we could not because somebody else rented it. There's always somebody more important than you, I guess, favored with the authorities. And then they would contact the church and say, sorry, it's not available this Sunday. So, and then they scrambled, and we have to get back to the parsonage again. And so during the COVID, that's South Sound Community Center was closed down because the government used it as a COVID testing site. So it was not available to anyone. So we searched all over to find a place in hotels and other facilities, conference rooms. We finally settled on the Chamber of Commerce conference room as a kind of change over time till we find something more permanent. It was nice, it was spacious and great to be able to use that, but it was $350 for 3 hours on a Sunday, every Sunday. So that kind of is spendy and beyond our budget at that time. And of course, if you don't have a church home, whatever you need for divine service, for the altar, for the service, for fellowship, for coffee and treats, it has to be transported to the church. We lovingly call it church in a box. Set everything up on Sunday morning, and after service and fellowship Bible study, put everything down in your tubs again, put it in your truck, and take it home again. Yep. Yeah. Well, Christmas at Christmas we decorated our Christmas tree in the sanctuary, and then after service we had to break it all down, put it in its box, rinse and repeat every Sunday. So we plan to bring a sense of permanence and visibility on the island, and we had all these plans set up, and then of course the homeowner said he's selling the house. We need another place. Look for another place. With a little bit of grace, he said once the contract was signed, he'll give us 60 days. So we had 6 months where we scrambled to find a place. If you only looked for an apartment for Heidi and me, that would be fine, relatively easy to find. A small apartment would be fine, but we needed a place for worship too. We needed storage place for all the church's things, and we could rent 3 spaces, but that's not very practical, and maybe not in budget. So we thought, if we can find one place that fits all 3, that'll be perfect. And we were running out of time, and nearly found a place. We thought, yeah, it might work. In a pinch, it might work. But if this is the only thing that is available, then it just has to work. And thankfully, at the last minute, we found, the Lord gave us 20 Memorial Crescent, our house where we now live and work. It's spacious. space for Heidi and me, of course, and for guests. We have two guest rooms. We have storage space in the garage. A garage is rare on the island. We have a garage, a storage space for the church's things, and of course, worship was possible on the back porch, which was which is enclosed and air conditioned. At the other portion, it was not. And they said we have to find some indoor space because, it was April, and in summer, the saying goes there, it's 90 degrees and 90% humidity, which is, when you stand outside, you just sweat. At the same time, COVID restrictions were lifted, and we said, why don't we come and worship on the porch? But the congregation said, no, the South Sound Community Center is available again. Let's try that because everybody knows it. We are familiar with it, they said. We can, when visitors come, they know kind of where we are, etc. And we have room to grow. The porch is kind of a little bit narrow. Here we have room to grow. But, of course, we have still church in a box. We still have to set up, etc. And if it's canceled, we have to scramble to let people know, and it's not good if visitors come that you don't have the contact details to let them know that we have moved for this Sunday. Well, I think God has a sense of humor too, as we are slow learners. Bats moved into the community center. It was just terrible. It smelled, the bat urine streaked down the walls. It was unhygienic, unsanitary. We lasted for 2 Sundays. We couldn't hold it anymore. And we asked the authorities, can you do something? We're not the only ones who want to rent the space. They said, bats are protected. It is bat breeding season. This was April. And breeding season lasts till November. So we'll decide what to do in November. So the congregation said, maybe the porch is not that bad either. So now we have a more permanent space on the porch. We gather on Sunday mornings. It's lovely. It's air conditioned, and we have now a more permanent space where we could go back to our original goals for a more permanent, visible place. So we set up a sign close to the street. People know when where to find us, and they see they have arrived with our sign. And I pinned it on Google Maps, so you can find us. Any visitor can find us. We're there every Sunday. There's no question anymore where. We took the baptismal font out of its box and put it in a private place in our set up chancel area. Visible sign of God's grace and His means of grace working in our midst there too, as He promised. We thought it might be even better to have a cross more visible outside, because when I talk to people out there and they usually ask, "No, so where is your church?" I say, "Well, Trinity Memorial Crescent." Is that a house? Yeah. You worship in a house? Yeah, of course. Kind of like the early church. But once they come, they realize, it works. But, to overcome a little bit of hesitancy, we invited a short-term mission team to build a cross for us. The Mackenzie family from the St. Louis area. He built the cross in pieces, brought it over in his luggage, and put it together and hung it outside for us. And now even the chickens know where church is. So we dedicated with the Mackenzie family during Advent. It was a joy to have them there too. Now we thought, we needed to make it more look like a church. It's just a porch, We have a living area next to it. Behind me is the kitchen and dining area, empty walls. How can we make it feel more like a sanctuary, like a dedicated space to the Lord where we can gather in His name? And Heidi jumped to work and started making banners. You want to talk about banners a little bit? Sure. Yeah. Yeah. Well, thank you, Heidi. Now, a little bit more of the Lord's work at Safe Harbor as promised through the means of grace. Our first baptism when we arrived was little Soren. He was born during the pandemic when there was no pastor. And this is our South African family. And I was privileged to baptize him, and his grandparents are still in South Africa. So I did some of the readings and baptismal liturgy in Afrikaans for them, so they could follow along for them. And our kids are in the back of the church. They are always part of our church there. And of course, Whitney's recent confirmation. I'm privileged to catechize her and confirm her. She's a joy to have in church, and she always excitedly invites other people to come. She lives with her brother in a small apartment. He works every Sunday, so we don't see him very often. But he's 35, has a heart problem. He had to have open heart surgery. And so the mom came over to take care of him. So she brought the mom to church too. And then, after he healed up, her mom went back home again. And that Sunday after, she kind of came to me sheepishly asking, "Pastor, do you have another catechism for me, please?" I said, "Sure, what happened to yours?" "Oh, my mom took mine." So this is a joy to have there. And of course, as good Lutherans, we have fellowship after church. Somebody brings treats, and we make coffee. That's our dining area and kitchen area. We share coffee and treats together. And then after that, we have Sunday school with the kids. Heidi teaches a couple of kids at the moment. And then we have Bible class at the same time, Bible studies. They are well attended, very lively, as you can imagine. People from 8 different countries, as many different church backgrounds or non-church backgrounds, lots of questions I asked, and good discussions that last much longer than usually scheduled Bible class time. And because there was no, they didn't have worship space during the week, only for Sundays, they never knew what midweek Advent or Lent services were. So we started introducing that because we now have our porch available to everyone, and Heidi makes a mean pot of soup, and people enjoy it together. It's good attraction. People that work late come afterwards, or eat afterwards, and all of them get a container of soup home with them. That's wonderful. To come back next week for more. So, part of our outreach efforts are outreach dinners or themed dinners that we have ever so often after church on Sundays sometimes, where people can interact with us informally. People invite their neighbors, friends, whoever, enemies they want to bring. So this was a pizza themed. We made our own pizzas with the ingredients there, pizza oven, and we had a wonderful time together. Of course, we had an American themed hamburgers and hot dogs together. Our living area is large enough where we can set up tables and chairs, and we can eat at table together, which is a joy. And this was a Peruvian themed dinner. It was a joy for us. Heidi and I were privileged to visit Peru on our 30th wedding anniversary, hiking the Inca Trail up to Machu Picchu, and they prepared fantastic meals for us out there. So Heidi grabbed some recipes and prepared Peruvian food, which was enjoyed by the Central Americans there. Our last one was South African theme. South African, this is called potjie. Simply means a little pot. So you brown the meat on the bottom, and then we asked all the members to bring different types of vegetables. So you start with the starches, and you layer them till the top, little water. Cook it low and slow till after the service. You enjoy it with rice and with fellow friends and members. So that was great to have. We have Cuban refugees on the island too. The Cubans that are there never planned to end up in the Cayman Islands. The path to Florida is kind of closed. They kind of cannot get there, most of them not. So most of them try to build their rafts or boats, whatever, and float down to the west to Honduras, and then walk or travel by land up through Mexico and the southern border. So that's the goal. They still want to go to the United States, come here. But I don't know what bad planning or whatever. By the time they float past the Cayman Islands, they're out of water, out of food, their rafts are falling apart, you know. So they get rescued by the Cayman Coast Guard and brought and housed in a facility, and we are planning or aiming to bring the gospel to them. And they want to, even the security guards said, you know, we want to hear the gospel, we want you to visit us, but you have to have permission from the immigration authorities. So we went there to the authorities, asked for permission, but they said no. I went back week after week after week, and they, every time had different excuses. The Cubans are hot potato for them. They didn't plan for them. They have no good facilities. What they do is they put them all on a plane and then fly them back to Havana and drop them off there. So when we get back, we'll try again. Hopefully they'll get sick of me and just say, okay, just go and visit them. And we're trying to help them physically too. We have a contact. She has access to them at night to bring some clothing, because all they have on their body is what they can take with them. So some decent clothes for them to go back with, and a few dollars, because most of them live about 6 hours away from Havana, and you know, no money, they cannot get transport. So we give them a few dollars for bus fare to their home. And they put that in their underwear, because if you carry anything in your hand, it's gone. It gets confiscated. So that's hopefully I'll aim there. Part of my call is to teach at the seminary in the Dominican Republic. This is an older picture. The building is now finished. It's white, painted white. It's 3 levels. Ground floor is Lutheran Elementary School. Middle floor is the church, Lutheran congregation, and the top floor is the seminary out there. So that's where this is a picture from the dorm rooms on the hillside. That's the dorm building, and looking down towards the seminary out there. And since I cannot travel every week to the Dominican Republic, I teach via Zoom, weekly classes in Spanish at the seminary. I was privileged to travel to the graduation in May, so that was great. This is our graduating class. Then we'll go back to Central and South America, except the tall guy in the middle. He's from Spain. He's going back to Spain, so to the Lutheran Church of Spain. And so the guy in the beard next to him is from Cuba. He's going back to Cuba to be a pastor there, to gather the flock there. It's very, very poor, very desolate. It's in Holguin. So he has a hard job, but very excited to have a pastor back again in Cuba. So, and the older guys from Venezuela, it's very, very hard to travel to and from and to Venezuela. So I guess the authorities thought, an older guy with a cane doesn't should have too much danger about him. So, so the class with faculty and staff together, and I taught this wonderful group of young pastors now the last semester together. It was a joy to do that. Also, our last golf course was exploring the possibilities of a preschool. It was, of course, always a goal to have a preschool out there because there's a great need for schools. Half the population are Caymanian, and only for Caymanians, public school is free. For expats, you're not allowed to send your children to public school. You have to send your child to a private school. So the agreement for if you bring your family on a work permit is you have to send your children to a private school. And there are not enough schools, especially early childhood education, because public schooling is free 5 years and up, or 5 years old and up. So preschool for 2, 3, 4 years old, they have to send their kids to private school too. So there's a great need for schools, as you will see too. And it would be a great ministry opportunity to reach young families with the gospel. Even the poorer families that cannot send their children to very good preschools, we're hoping to start a scholarship fund so that they can kind of get a head start in life. The little children to attend our school too, and we would become more visible, more permanent, established on the island, and not so much just a fly-by-night operation as some people might think. So we pray that the church might grow through that. Challenge, of course, came a law which says you have to have 20 square foot per child indoor space, excluding furniture. So the size of indoor space, determines how many children you can have. Too small, it doesn't pay. You cannot operate a school. And you have to have 40 square foot per child outdoor space, excluding playground equipment. So you have to indoor and outdoor space by law, and that kind of restricts your possibilities of the realty you can buy or rent if you want to. And if you have to rent, there's a 60-day clause in there. It happened incidentally, to a preschool just before we left. The property owner told them, you have 60 days to vacate this property. And I guess when we get back, we'll find out if they found something else at that time. And Safe Harbor is a very small church. We cannot financially support a school, and which will work in the Cayman Islands because the private schools are all tuition-based, completely tuition-based, without outside help as such. So this might work for us. So the regional leadership came to the islands in March to help us plan. We set up a school committee and we planned and put things together. LCF, Lutheran Church Extension Fund, came out in April. They said, let's try and make this work. They're excited to help us get something going, to purchase something, so that we are not dependent on renting a facility. So we planned for them 2 spaces. First, an open lot, 2.5 acres, and we thought that might work because you can build to suit. You can build as large as you want. We could also build a church if possible. So this looked exciting to us, but it was only 3 feet above sea level. Prone to flooding, and we would have to backfill the 2.5 acres, another 3 feet up to street level, and another 2 feet for the foundation. And the island is flat. If you dig a hole, it just fills with water. So all the building material is imported, including dirt. So before you even start building, you have, prohibitive costs. So we thought, this might not work. So we thought maybe a commercial plaza. If we purchase that, we could use 2,000 square foot on the ground floor, and the rest we could rent out to commercial customers, and that'll help pay the loan to LCF. This looked exciting for us, and the only caveat is it doesn't have outdoor space. We would have to rip up a big part of the parking lot to have the required by law outdoor space. But if you have a commercial plaza, you have to have parking spaces by law. So we were trying to make this work. We invited the Department of Education and Planning and things like that. And while we were busy with this, the committee member found out that there was a school going up for sale. They were inviting private bids, and we visited there. This looked exciting. We could have, instead of something else for the same price, we could have a Montessori school, and it's established. It's very successful. It has 100 students at the moment. It has another 100 students on the waiting list. So a very good location, parking, everything looked good. It has a campus, 1.5 acres, 3 buildings. You could use possibly 1 building for church. We could transition into a Lutheran school, Lutheran Montessori. Heidi could transition as director so that we could establish that pattern to be a Lutheran school even for the future. LCF was excited to help us with this opportunity. The challenge, of course, was always important that church and school and mission is together, one identity. We grow together. The staff that was there needed to be trained in Lutheran curriculum, possibly. We might lose some staff who do not want to become or want anything to do with Christianity at all. and some students maybe too, but we had a long waiting list, so it's good. We needed to use that building not to lose income. We needed to use maybe that one building for a dual purpose, school during the week, and on Sundays for church. Well, might possible. We all thought it was an exciting opportunity. It all happened while we were traveling, just before we left. During our travels, we had meetings and Zoom meetings and planning, and we handed in a non-binding bid at the end of June. We negotiated. They opened up their records for us, and we gathered our financing together. And yeah, a little over a week ago, we found out, no, it's no-go. It's not possible. It all fell through. The whole deal fell through, and so we kind of bummed out about it. But well, we pray about it. Lord, your will be done. And well, this was not, I guess, not His will for us now. So keep it in your prayers that the Lord will open our eyes and the opportunities that He wants us to see there, to hopefully with the school or other mission opportunities there. So we had hoped to have wonderful news for you, but that's how mission work goes. It goes, up and down. So not too many questions from you. One question from me. Why did the chicken cross the road? Get to the beach, of course. Yeah. Thank you so much. And thank you from the people of Safe Harbor Lutheran Church, who thank you for your support and makes it possible for us to be there and work amongst them. So you're welcome to come visit. And questions? Any questions or comments? Anything from your side?
A couple minutes for questions if you'd like to interact a little bit.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Haiti, unfortunately, I don't know too much, but what I hear is it's just absolute chaos. It's gangs that fight against each other and all that. As far as I know, the Lutheran Church is independent and still going. The church is still going, but it's kind of hard for them to function there, and they are very poor, and any help that gets there gets stolen, gets confiscated, gets sold to the Dominican Republic and things like that. So, yeah. Well-meaning people from here, from the U.S., send things there, but it never gets to the people that need them. The only way to get it there is to bring it yourself, but at the moment you cannot travel there. Yeah. Well, thank you so much. God bless you. It's so wonderful to see you. Thank you for your love, your support, your prayers. Appreciate it very much.
Pray together. Our Father, who art in heaven,